Hello everybody, Blue Dooley. We have the grand hauler out here on the workbench today because I picked up some brass and we're going to start on the trailer a second time. I was making out of steel and some key stock and was just having a hard time getting everything square and lined up with key stock, and the sheet metal didn't get cut very straight. So I'm going to try soldering or brazing the brass stock. And we're going to actually start, instead of with the whole hull, we're going to start with the front end of the trailer, fifth wheel plate, and then the front part of the trailer itself with the material I have on hand at the moment. And then we'll kind of work front to back. Or we might start out at the front until they run out of material, order some more material, and then we'll get the back portion of the trailer built, and then build the middle and hook it all together. So let me get you a little closer here. I'll show you what I got picked up. And I do got my RC Cola. Even though they don't sponsor, maybe someday. For the plate that's going to go on the fifth wheel and hold the kingpin, we have some .016 by 6 by 12 inch brass sheeting, and then 6 1-foot pieces of 1/8 inch by .014 brass stock. Hold it steady so you can see it. So 6 pieces of this, and first we're going to start off with figuring out how big the kingpin plate needs to be. Because everybody's a child when you have sheet metal. So the fifth wheel is 2 7/16 wide. My tape measure only measures in American. I don't have a tape measure that does both. Well, not out here in the garage anyways. I should write something down now. Okay. What is this piece of board? Let's see, we got 2 7/16. So that'll be the width. And then I'm not entirely sure how high I need to come up. Because I'll need some space between what's sitting on the fifth wheel and the bottom of the actual trailer, so the belt can run between them and not get snagged. Actually, how thick is this? That is 1/4 of an inch. So 1/2 inch might be too much, or maybe just right, because I could slot the plate I'm making a little bit, not quite half, but up a little ways, because I need to put a slot in it for the roller that'll be at the front of the trailer here. And if I have a slot, I can kind of adjust some tension on it. So I think that might be what we do. We'll I also have some old square stocks like laying around too. let's go. Let's see, and then how long do we need it to be? Let's say we'll make this plate 4 inches long. We'll put the kingpin right in the middle, that way we have some hanging out the front and hanging off both sides. And then we'll actually make it 2.5 wide. That way we have a little overhang on each side of the fifth wheel. Might be doing this out of frame or not. So we'll put the bend at half. Half-inch bend. And then we'll go come over here, 1 inch, 1.5 inch. There's 2. There's our other bend. And where we need to cut. And we need to come back here to 4. Alright, so and we'll get some snips. Do some cut. Get my shears. So let me pause this and we'll come back after I get you cut out. I actually got pretty good straight cuts on that. So this is wide enough for our 2 half-inch bends. And then long enough here. You can see how much I got on both sides of the fifth wheel plate. And then for getting a little more accurate things, I don't always use the end. I come out here to a solid line. That way I at least know I'm marking in the same place on both sides. And the Sharpie marks might be hard for you to see, I'm not 100% sure. But we're going to put this might actually be long enough. They have some sheet metal benders, and they are pretty darn close. I think it might be easier if I just put it in the vise. Now, since my jaws on my vise aren't smooth, I'm going to use this wood to give me a smoother pinch, so I'm not actually putting teeth marks in the brass. You can 3D print some jaw pieces. You can use regular angle iron to get you a smoother bend, or not to put jaw marks in soft metal. So I have some wood, and that'll work good because it doesn't take much force to bend this brass. So that is the piece bent up, and my cut isn't quite 100% straight, but at least my bends are nice and even. Like I said, this is going to sit on the fifth wheel, and I need space between this and the bottom of the hopper so the belt can come through here. Turn the truck a little more sideways so you can see it better. So yeah, this will be my kingpin plate. And then now I can measure from this to the cab, because I'm kind of eyeballing this. Like I said, the length's going to be scale. The height's going to be kind of what I think actually looks the best to me. So we can actually get this plate or the fifth wheel level. That's pretty even. So we're about 7/8 off the frame rail. On top of the cab, 6. Well, yeah. Actually, 6 inches even with the light bar from the frame rail. If we go 6, then come up here, about there. That'll put it midway up the stacks. So now we need to cut our first tube here. I think we will just cut this right in half. I'm going to cut that. I'm going to cut this in half, and then we'll be back. Got those cut and just bumped it up against the belt sander just to make sure they were both perfectly even. And keep my hand out of the way. Now I need to be able to hold it. Let me go get my small C-clamps. There we go. Get you out of the mount here. So that'll kind of give you an idea of the height of the trailer to the rest of the truck. Like I said, I kind of want to keep it lower, as the trailer I'm basing it on isn't super tall, isn't a lot taller than the cab of the truck usually. So we'll now figure out how much heat I need to actually solder this stuff together. I got myself lots of options. I got some steel stick, JB Weld, which is a putty, and it actually says copper and brass right on it, aluminum and bronze. Then we have some silver bearing acid core solder, metalwork solder. This one doesn't give me a percentage, the other one does. 95.5 lead free solder. So we'll bust this one out, and my 1000-watt soldering iron might be hot enough to actually join this stuff. We might not have to bust out one of the torches. Well, as you can see, I got one of these soldered in pretty good. However, the second one just is not cooperating. I need like needle nose vice grips to hold them in place, and my torch setup it's just too cheap And these valves are just, you can't fine tune them, so half the time you just barely move them and you blow the torch out because the pressure's too high. So I think we're going to go with the JB Weld route for now. So cures in an hour. But this should actually get us a little, maybe nicer result than what I'm currently getting. The soldering iron actually got hot enough to get this one stuck, but I can't hold this still enough to put enough pressure on the thicker stuff to get a good mix. So we'll use some putty. We'll use some very use some old kitchen or a regular pair of scissors. Now we got to get it so it's in the same place as that one is. Shifting, it won't stay put. Okay, the other problem is trying to keep this stuff in place. While it works. I mixed up way too much already. Of course, we can also sand the putty just like we can anything else. So let me wash my hands and we'll come back here in a bit. Now the steel stick has a cure time, or a set time of 5 minutes. And a cure time of an hour. I'm thinking these are gonna stick for now. Kind of cut an uneven piece here. That'll be the leading edge of the trailer. And we'll schmooze stuff out and get things going here. And I found some nitrate gloves, but they're size too small. I sit it back a little bit so it's balanced a little better. But now you can see height compared to the truck. So the next order of business is we need our next piece. So these two line up at the front of the trailer, and then the next one actually comes back from where the front wraps around to the side. So I'm thinking what I might do is need to notch where this is going to sit so it'll sit flush, and then the belt can clear it still. But then we also need to get it to the right width. Because we'll actually cut it so it's even with the fenders here. That'll be, should be a pretty good look. Like I said, I'm basing this on a real trailer, but I'm still just kind of eyeballing stuff. 7 1/8 of an inch long, or wide, I should say. Tractor itself is 6 3/8. I didn't realize the sleeper was that narrow. Yeah, the tires are 7 1/8. If I go 7 2/8, that'll give me a little bit of overhang for the fenders. Well, as you can see here, I tried soldering these together, and I either get too much heat or not enough heat. No real happy medium, and I kind of bowed this one and took a chunk out of it, so I think we're going to stick with the putty for now. I have one piece cut to go here in the bottom, and then the top piece, I left it a foot long, went and found center, then figured out how far apart these are at the bottom so I could push them together with the magnets. And then I notched both sides so when they're folded up, they should be the same length as this. And then these will actually come up a little bit, so then we can tie into here. So I'm going to do, bend these up, see if they'll actually measure here or not, or we might have to trim some pieces to add on to these. And this thin stuff's kind of hard to get. I'm gonna have to do a little more clearancing, it looks like, but that's what we got so far. Somehow it didn't end up even, despite being as even as I could get them. So I'll have to cut a little more out of the insides of each. So it's been a few hours since we glued up the brass frame here, and I kind of got frustrated with that. So I started on a steel one again, because I didn't realize I still had a ton of this 1/8 inch key stock left. And then I have some fairly thick sheet metal. I actually had to heat that up with the torch to even bend it and whack it with a hammer. So it's substantially stiffer than the brass plate here, but I don't have everything fully welded. I got, well, those are pretty much fully welded, and I don't know what happened there. But this one still needs a little bit of weld. And then I need to get this piece measured for. And that cut didn't come out even again, because of course it's hard to cut straight when you don't have any way to actually cut straight. At least sheet metal. So I need to get this spaced out where it needs to be, and then I think I have enough to get from here to here. But I actually had 2 full 3-foot lengths. And I might mix up some more putty and kind of work on both simultaneously and see how they turn out. I think I might just get some real small brass rod that'll slip in here, and then I can do some more glue stuff together. But I think the problem with the brass is I don't have enough jigs and clamps to hold stuff together so I can heat it up and solder it or braze it. The steel, it's magnetic, and I got 4 magnets, so it's easier to work with. But just trying to hold this stuff in place and get the putty to line and get the parts to line up and putty them, it's a bit more frustrating than I thought it was going to be. Not gonna lie. So let me get this kind of worked out a little bit, and then we'll come back. So we're actually going to call it a night. I got the brass one sitting up here, so you can kind of see how it's going to sit on the truck and how much higher than the truck it's going to be. They come up about midway between the top of the stack and the top of the cab, which I think actually is going to look pretty good. I am not real thrilled with the way this brass one came out. I just don't have the right kind of jigs or helping hands or way to hold the pieces together to putty them or get a good solder joint on them. I tried using the torch, and that just got way too hot, way too fast, and actually would warp even the tubing real quick. My 100-watt soldering gun would get hot enough to do the sheet metal, and I did get one tube stuck to the sheet metal using the soldering iron, but I don't have a good way to hold the brass together and push against it with the soldering iron so I can actually get the heat transferred through the parts. So we bent up a new plate out of this 16 gauge sheet metal I have, which I don't think it needs to be thicker than that. But all I have left are these 3 little pieces of the 1/8 inch square stock, so I'm gonna have to get some more of that. We'll look at it from the front of the truck here. You can see how high up it's gonna stick. Yeah, that belt will be, well, the center of the belt will probably be right here along the edge. And then this is actually thick enough, I'll be able to drill a little hole here in the center for the actual kingpin, weld the kingpin to this both sides, and then just smooth that out, and that'll work really well. The 16 gauge, I'm going to do some cardboard aided drafting on, and then I will take it to a machine shop and see if they can laser cut out what I need and use one of their metal brakes to actually bend it. That way I'll get more precise bends and cuts, and yeah, more precise bends and cuts, because that little vise, it isn't going to cut it. So this is a 3-foot stick of the 1/8 inch bar, and a scale 53 foot is actually closer to 48 inches. So this needs to be a fair bit longer to be scale. So that's going to do it for this video. I apologize, last week's video was just reorganize the office, and this one's going to be kind of short because, well, I spent more time wasting time trying to solder and braze than I did actually get anything accomplished, which happens sometimes. So that's kind of what the channel is. we don't always succeed on this channel. And that's all right. I'd like to succeed a little more, because that would increase the fun a little bit. But this one is turning out a fair bit better than the original one I had, so that does make me happy. When I actually go to get the hull for this trailer, I'm going to triple measure everything, and then I'm going to go have a machine shop we use at work. Again, laser cut the steel, bend it in a big break so it'll be nice square bends, and it'll sit right in here, and then we can just tack it in places. So that's going to do it for this video. Stay tuned for more. We'll catch you in the next one.